When it comes to urban legends, one of the big ones that everyone knows about is the Bermuda Triangle. Spread across from Miami to San Juan and Bermuda itself, the Bermuda Triangle is roughly over 1 million square miles of ocean that, according to legend, has a very peculiar characteristic: the ability to make things disappear without a trace. Ever since the dawn of sea travel, ships vanishing on the high seas from time to time was just the natural order of things for ancient sailors. But by the 1950s, people had begun to consider that maybe the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle were something beyond normal statistics. From as far back as 1800 to as recently as 2020, dozens of ships and aircraft have vanished near or in the Bermuda Triangle. Unexplainable disappearances that have been blamed on everything from UFOs, bad weather, space-time anomalies, faulty navigational equipment, and even defensive technology left behind by the long-dead citizens of the lost continent of Atlantis. Whether it's undisputed fact or scientific hogwash, the Bermuda Triangle is just one of those things that captures the imagination of people looking to believe in something outside the norm. So you can only imagine how I felt when I learned that a similar phenomena exists near my home state of Michigan. In Lake Michigan, there is a section of water that connects Ludington and Benton Harbor, Michigan to Manitowoc, Wisconsin. This here is called the Lake Michigan Triangle, and it is responsible for as many disappearances and strange occurrences as the Bermuda Triangle, and yet it's not nearly as well known. The earliest known strange occurrence in the Lake Michigan Triangle was in 1679 during the maiden voyage of the French two-masted barque called Le Griffon. After a successful sale of fur and pelts with local Native American tribes on Mackinac Island, Le Griffon set sail for its next destination. The ship and its 6-man crew were never seen again. In 1891, the 3-masted schooner called the Thomas Hume had successfully dropped off a load of lumber at a mill in Chicago and promptly set sail for home in Muskegon with its 7-man crew. The ship and crew did not arrive. A $300 reward was offered to anyone who could at least locate a piece of wreckage from the Thomas Hume, and the entirety of Lake Michigan was searched, but there was no use. Until the year 2006, when some divers would stumble across the almost completely intact wreck that bears no physical indication of why she went down. In October of 1921, a 2-masted schooner called the Rosabelle set sail with a load of lumber bound for Benton Harbor. She would eventually be found capsized about 40 miles east of Milwaukee. She bore some damage to her hull that could have been the result of colliding with another ship. However, according to an investigation by the Coast Guard, there were no reports of any other damaged vessels in the area, and the 11-man crew was nowhere to be found. On April 28, 1937, Captain George R. Donner of the freighter O.M. McFarland decided to catch a nap and ordered his crew to wake him once they reached their destination of Port Washington, Wisconsin. Hours later, the ship safely reached Port Washington and the crew went to wake Captain Donner as instructed. However, the door to his quarters was discovered to be locked. The crew broke the door down and discovered that Captain Donner was nowhere to be found. There were no other doors or windows in the room, and the door was locked from the inside, which puzzled the crew. The O.M. McFarland was searched top to bottom, but no trace of Captain Donner would ever be found, almost as if he had vanished into thin air. On June 23, 1950, Northwest Airlines Flight 2501 was on its way to Seattle after a short layover in Minneapolis. At 11:37 p.m., the aircraft's pilot, Captain Robert Lynn, radioed the tower and requested to drop his altitude from 3,500 feet to 2,500 feet in order to avoid a nasty electrical storm. Minutes later, the aircraft disappeared from the radar and attempts to contact them were unsuccessful. It was determined that the plane had gone down in Lake Michigan and a search was conducted. After a few days, the searchers found some seat cushions, a Northwest Airlines blanket, and various smaller debris including fragments of human body parts. But the aircraft itself was nowhere to be found. While only partial remains were discovered, it's assumed that all 58 people on board Flight 2501 perished, and to this day, no expedition has ever found any trace of the plane on land or underwater. On February 20th, 1978, a 23-year-old student named Stephen Kubacki was on a cross-country ski trip near Lake Michigan when, without warning, he disappeared. Searchers found his gear and snowmobile abandoned on the frozen lake, and judging by how his footprints abruptly stopped, they assumed he must have fallen through the ice and drowned. It was a fairly open and shut case of accidental death, until the following May when Kubaki was found alive in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, over 700 miles away from where he vanished. In his own words, Kubaki stated that he woke up lying in the grass wearing strange clothing that he didn't remember owning, which included a t-shirt from a marathon in Wisconsin. He also had a backpack on that contained random road maps that he didn't remember buying. In fact, Kubaki claimed that he couldn't remember anything about the year and a half that he had been gone, but he suspected that he must have done a bit of traveling. In 2007, an archaeology professor named Mark Hawley, along with his colleague Brian Abbott, decided to perform a sonar scan of the Lake Michigan Triangle in an effort to discover more shipwrecks. But what they actually discovered was something truly amazing. 40 feet underwater in a currently classified location, Hawley and Abbott discovered what can only be described as a stone structure arranged in a pattern similar to that of Stonehenge. Not only that, near the stone structure was a boulder with the image of a mastodon inscribed on it. And since we know scientifically when mastodons went extinct, we can use it to estimate this Stonehenge-like structure to be at least 10,000 years old. While research into the objects is still ongoing, there are already theories out there that the underwater Stonehenge might be a clue that leads to the truth behind whatever the hell is causing all the strange occurrences in the Lake Michigan Triangle. So what are we to take away from this little creepy tale? Probably more questions than we had coming into it. What is it about the Lake Michigan Triangle? Is it haunted by evil spirits? Is it cursed? Is it a nexus point in the space-time continuum? Is it a playground for UFOs? Or is it all just nothing more than severe weather, tragic circumstances, and bad luck? Well, like I've said a handful of times before, it all comes down to what you choose to believe. As for me, well, I'm still on the fence about it, but I'm not nearly brave enough to get on a plane or a boat in order to get to the bottom of it. If you like this video, please show your support by dropping a comment below, hitting the like button, and sharing it with your friends. If you're curious about my future content and want to hear more creepy tales, then please subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell icon so you'll be notified when I upload something new. Until next time, have a lovely day, stay safe out there, and most importantly,
stay creepy.